اس طرح منزل صبر و رضا زینب نے کی اس طرح منزل صبر و رضا زینب نے کی امت جد کے لیے حق سے دعا زینب نے کی امت جد کے لیے حق سے دعا زینب نے کی کربلا کے واقعے میں رنگ دونوں نے بھرا کربلا کے واقعے میں رنگ دونوں نے بھرا ابتدا شبیر نے اور انتہا زینب نے کی اس طرح منزل درود پڑھ دیں درود پڑھ دیں صلی اللہ محمد صلی اللہ محمد محمد ہوا جو عشق سنائے ابو تراب مجھے ہوا جو عشق سنائے ابو تراب مجھے خدا نے کر دیا ذرے سے آفتاب مجھے ہوا جو زمین نظر آئے ہیں بوتراب مجھے قبر کی ظلمت میں آفتاب مجھے ہوا جو عشق سنائے ابو تراب مجھے چھلک جام رہے مہکدا رہے آبا، کلی سے پھول کیا پھول سے گلاب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے ابو تراب، مجھے تیرا نظیر ہے دنیا میں اور نہ کوئی میرا، تجھے ہلال بنایا ہے آفتاب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے ابو تراب، مجھے نقاب روس سے الٹ دیجئے علی اکبر، چمک دکھا کے جلاتا ہے آفتاب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے ابو تراب، مجھے پدر کے غم میں تڑپتی ہوں کہتی تھی سغرا، نہ چین آتا ہے بیویوں نہ خواب، مجھے غریب و بے کسوں مظلوم تشنہ کام شہید ملے ہیں خلق میں سر دے کہ یہ خطاب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے ابو تراب، مجھے زمین ہند میں مٹی میری خراب نہ ہو، کرو نجف میں طلب یا ابو تراب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے ابو تراب، مجھے کیے جو واقع نکیرین نے سوال کیے جو آکے نکیرین نے سوال بتا دیے میرے مولا نے سب جواب، مجھے ہوا جو عشق ثنائے درود پڑھ سورہ فاتحہ۔
بسم اللہ الرحمن
جب زخم کھا کے بنتے علی کے پیسر گرے، جب زخم کھا کے بنتے علی کے پیسر گرے، جلتی زمین پہ تشنا جگر خون کے تر گرے، غل پڑ گیا کہ خواب پہ رش کے کمر گرے، سن کر حسین قلب و جگر تھام کر گرے، سن کر حسین قلب و جگر تھام کر گرے، عباس دل پہ داغے علم کھا کے رہ گئے، جعفر کے پھول دشت میں مرجھا کے رہ گئے، جعفر کے پھول دشت میں مرجھا کے رہ گئے، باجے بجے سپاہ عدو میں جو ڈیوڑی پہ آ کے کہہ گئے اکبر بازار، اے بیبیوں میری پھوپھی اماں سے بے ہوشیاں، گرزوں سے فرق کے اون محمد ہوئے فغاں، گرزوں سے فرق کے اون محمد ہوئے فغاں، آئے تھے ہم بھی صرف خبر کو سنانے کو، جاتے ہیں شیخ غریبوں کے لاشیں اٹھانے کو، جاتے ہیں غریبوں کے لاشیں اٹھانے، خیمے میں یہاں تڑپتی رہی زینب حسین، لاشوں پہ بان جو کہ وہاں پہنچے شاہدین، دیکھا کہ غش میں خاک پہ دونوں ہیں میں جبیں، بہتا ہے خون بات کی طاقت ذرا نہیں، بہتا ہے خون بات کی طاقت ذرا نہیں، ڈھالیں گری ہیں چھٹ کے دلیروں کے ہاتھ سے، قبضے گرے چھوٹے نہیں شیروں کے ہاتھ سے، قبضے مگر چھوٹے نہیں شیروں کے ہاتھ سے، شان ہلا ہلا کے پکارے شہ خدا، مامون نثار ہوش میں آؤ تو ایک ذرا، کچھ حال دل سناتے ہوئے جاؤں میں فدا، یہ سن کے دونوں شیروں نے کی آنکھیں نیم باں، یہ سن کے دونوں شیروں نے کی آنکھیں نیم باں، دیکھا رخ امام کو گھبرا کے رہ گئے، یاد آ گئی وہ بات کے تھرا کے رہ گئے، یاد آ گئی وہ بات کے تھرا کے رہ گئے، مولا نے پیار سے کہا ہائے ہائے یہ کیا کیا، لرزاں ہے جسم کس کا تمہیں डर है मैं फिदा। शह के कदम पकड़ के पुकारे वो मैं लगा। धड़का हमें ये है कहीं अम्मा ना हो खफा। धड़का हमें ये है कहीं अम्मा ना हो खफा। ज़हमत हुई इमाम फलक बारगाह को, समझेंगी वो हमें न बुलाया है शाह को। समझेंगी वो हमी ने बुलाया है शाह को। जग जख्म खा के बिनते अली के पिसर गिरे। तमाम से दुआ।
फातिहा। Just as with yesterday, I'm shortly going to put on a video made by one of the brothers at the center here. It's a short animation that goes over the history and events of Karbala, and this will be day 5 of the videos, so please stay tuned for that. Salawat.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Blood venture. The season of tasting honey.
ترک سفر کن، مردم من از دل واپسی.
The night before Ashura, when Imam Hussein, peace be upon him, told his companions what would occur and that they will all die, he told them to leave, but they refused. The 13 to 14-year-old boy, amongst them Qasim ibn al-Hassan, asked, "Oh uncle, will I also become a martyr in this fight?" He asked in our choice of words, "How do you reckon death tastes?" He said, "It's sweeter than honey." As Ashura came, he started fighting. Then he was hit by Ibn Fudail al-Azdi on the head, which broke. He then fell on his face on the ground and shouted, "Oh uncle." Hussein rushed to him like a falcon would when hunting. Then he attacked like a furious lion and hit Ibn Fudail with his sword. They tried to bring him back, and a tremendous fight occurred right next to Qasim ibn al-Hassan. They came, and the Imam pushed them back, and because of this tremendous fight, dust arose from the ground. It says, then the dust sat down. Imam Hussein pressed Qasim to his chest and brought him to the body of Ali Akbar. He had been both an uncle and a father to Qasim since he was the age of 3. They say, "Why are you beating your chest?" Crying and tears popular to the people. The chest beatings and tears aren't for itself, they are for values. What is hidden behind the mournings, chest beatings and cries is maybe the most significant treasures of mankind. It's the divine values of God, of which Hussein ibn Ali was the personification. It's remembering those values and keeping them alive.
محرمان حلقه زده در پی پیغامی چند. محرمان حلقه زده در پی پیغامی چند چشم انعام مدارید ز انعامی چند فرصت عیش نگه دار بزن جامی چند که نمانده است ره عشق مگر گامی چند در بلاییم ولی عشق بلاگردان است امشبی را شاهدین در حرمش مهمان است
حبیب خدا ختم الانبیاء سلوات
اللهم صل على أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين صلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Yesterday we started to talk about a very intriguing subject. After looking at the nature of the world and understanding how we can be deluded easily through distraction, and seeing how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in fact calls the world as a place of delusion, we started to look at the actual mechanics of how it becomes a place of delusion. We spoke briefly about the nafs, but inshallah as the lectures progress we'll go into it deeper. What we started with was the other enemy of mankind, which is the devil, shaitan. We looked at his genesis, we looked at his backstory, we understood his motivation, and from the communications of the Holy Quran, we understand that he will not allow any one of us to pass through the net. He is such a motivated enemy of mankind that for him, even for one person to get through is problematic, because for us to get through that net, it would mean that he would have been unjustified in his contention with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses mankind to be the Khalifa, shaitan's stakes are very high. Shaitan tried to say that human beings are not the right vessel. Should have been him. So the more of us that are successful, the more his point is disproved. It is like the example that we gave of the person who had done very well, was employee of the month, was invited to the manager's meeting. The new branch is being opened, and they think that they deserve to be the one who runs that branch, but the management outsources. Now, the person who is the one who felt hard done by, there is not one instance of mistake that they would want to miss out on. They want to make the whole file full of mistakes, to say, look, this is why it should have been me, this is why it should have been me, this is why it should have been me. Which indicates that there is a significant moral effort and struggle of the human being to overcome this enemy. And we explained some of the macro strategies that shaitan has. He has whispering. He has to make things seem nice. So we talked about waswasa and sawwala. Waswasa gives us the indication of his tactics, that he doesn't come to us with an apparent visage. He comes to us and just makes a whisper. And if I just illustrate this point to you, imagine I started to give these lectures. And before you came to the lecture, someone just mentioned in your ear, be careful of that guy. Now, when you came to attend the lecture, you would be looking for something. Why have I been told to be careful? Now, the person who just made that little whisper to you, they didn't say anything. They didn't say that I was dangerous. They didn't say that I was problematic in what I said. They didn't say anything like that. But what they did do is just sow that little seed of doubt. And that was enough for you to change your whole attitude. Okay? So a whisper is an ambush. A whisper is something that just doesn't even have any, if you like, commitment to it. And this is what shaitan does Yawm al-Qiyamah. His dialogue is made clear in the Holy Quran. We will feel hard done by, like, look, we didn't realize, shaitan was involved in this, and shaitan will say, yo, it wasn't me. It was your own action. I just whispered. I just made a small statement here. You are the one who's responsible for what you did after that. But it is the whisper that is so detracting for the human being. So we looked at whispering, and we looked at making something seem nicer than it is. And of course, if you link this back to what we talked about, the nature of the world, all of those different things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, la'ibun wa lahwun, and then he said, wa zinatun. Zinatun, like I said to you, means making something look better than it is. And we know that this is something that shaitan actively tries and does. He does this on a societal level. How? Through the use not of jinn, who also have that devilish nature, but of human beings. So we discussed that the Holy Quran doesn't have a separate category of devils. It is either jinn or human beings that have the characteristic of being devilish. And we said in the Holy Quran, we know this because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that for every prophet, He sent the shayateen of ins and jinn to be their enemies. And we also have another place in the Holy Quran where we hear about this, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah. In Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the hypocrites, He says, when they meet the believers, they say that we believe. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. When they meet face to face with a believer, they hide their true nature and reality, and they say, we're one of you, we believe. وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ قَالُوا إِنَّا مَعَكُمْ إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ. But when they are now alone with their shayateen, what do they say? They say we are with you. We were only joking back then. And here, if you look at the tafsir, and what is explained here is that these are human beings that they go back to. Just like they faced human beings and they said, we believe, they go back to another group of human beings and say, we were only doing that on the surface. We're actually with you. So that two-facedness that they display is to two groups of people. So you can see that it is through the employment of the shayateen of of a human nature, that that shaitan uses a system to derail a large bunch of people. If you like, the system of society is his net. It is a wide net. It managed to entrap a lot of people. And it is only those people that see through the nature of the world that he then has to pay more attention to. But of those people that are caught into that wider net, that's just the beginning of their troubles. That's the beginning of their worries. Because it is possible for a human being to not only be led astray by the devil in a macro sense, but it is possible for them to be assigned a specific devil to continually push them away. And this is why we never get away, or human beings never get away with anything. I remember I was thinking about this issue when I was looking at global affairs, thinking to myself, how is it that people get away with so much injustice? And as I was thinking about that, I came across a verse of the Holy Quran that talked about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. And the interesting thing about this verse, we all know that Allah's plan is better. Okay? But the interesting thing about this verse is it said that Allah's plan is quicker. Okay? Not better, quicker. Which means that in some way they must face the consequences very quickly. And of course that's not something that we see very clearly. But the verse itself continues to explain. It says that Allah's plan is quicker, and we have angels that write down what they do. So when I looked back at the tafsir, because also writing down what they do seems to be something delayed again, right? It's written down, it's noted down, but the recompense and the result of that is something that will come later on. So as I continued to look into the verse, I looked at Tafsir al-Mizan of Allama Tabatabai. And he gives a very interesting explanation of what this writing down of the angels is. He says that the writing down of the angels is not on any paper, is not in any language, it is not with any pen. When we talk about the angels writing something down, it is the very inscription on the soul of that person which is the effect of their action. Meaning that when a person carries out an act of oppression, in doing that, they shape their very soul, they imprint on their very soul in such a way that the effect is immediate. Okay? So when someone oppresses someone else, in truth what they are doing is taking their own soul and oppressing their own soul. Yes, of course, there is an outward effect on the other who is oppressed, but they oppress themselves and oppress others. And we see something similar with good deeds as well. If we look at this very beautiful verse about giving charity as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a parable about charity. He says, مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ. He says the example of those people who give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like a seed. Okay, from that seed come 7 ears. And in each one of those ears, there are 100 more seeds. Okay? So this parable tells us about the manifold nature of the return on charity. Okay, so usually when you plant one seed, you get one plant. Okay? But here, when you plant one seed, you get 7 ears. And in each one of those ears, there is 100. Okay, so if you like, 1 turns into 700. And of course, Allah finishes the ayah by saying, Wallahu yudha'ifu liman yasha. Allah will, increase whoever He wills. So like I said, when we look at the return Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to us, it is not something that is limited to some numerical calculation. But the interesting thing about this verse is that it is not about what happens to the charity. It is not if you give £1, you'll get 700 back. or you'll get the worth of 700 back in the hereafter. It didn't say that. It didn't say the example of charity is like one seed. It said the example of the people who give charity. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ, the example of the people who give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like a seed. What does that mean? That means that this example of increase is to do with the spiritual increase that a person experiences when they open their hand and they give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can see that the very effect of our action is immediate. And this is what we've been saying between the link between the hereafter and the dunya. Okay? What happens in the hereafter is not delayed. Okay? When we ask about the benefits of faith, the benefits of faith are not delayed. What is delayed is our perception of those benefits. We need to see sometimes the result in front of our eyes. Okay? But the truth is that if we introspected and if we looked within, we would see the result of those actions. It is like when you make a very wise business decision. Okay, it's going to make you a lot of money. Okay? Sometimes you need to see the money. But sometimes you know. You don't need to see the money come in. You know it is going to happen because the decision is a very good one. It is the same thing with our actions. Our actions and the result of our actions is immediate. So those people that do oppressive deeds, they witness that immediately. But if they continue down this line, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigns a companion demon to that person. So the verse is, whoever is blind to the reminding exhortation of the All-Merciful, we assign to him نُقَيِّذْ لَهُ, a devil, shaytanan, فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ. So that devil is a close companion to them. It hangs around with them all the time. This is when somebody has become deaf to the reminding exhortation. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's communication, it falls on completely deaf ears. Meaning that that person takes a certain trajectory. Now once they start going down that trajectory, then the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that it becomes harder and harder for them to dig themselves out. How does that system play out? That system plays out through the assigning of a specific devil. Okay? What do these devils do? So these devils continue to turn their victims away from the path and encourage them in the delusion that they are guided. Okay? So they don't see anything wrong with what they're doing. In fact, they see you, the one who is on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the one at fault, as the one who's deluded, as the one who hasn't figured things out. They've figured it out. Okay? That is the action of a companion devil. Now think about it. When you look in society, do you not see this? Do you not see, I used to think to myself, how can people commit wild acts of oppression, bomb entire nations, wake up to footage of all kinds of things, and sleep the next night? How is it possible? This is the work of a companion devil who makes them feel like in some way this is justified. In some way this is correct. In some way they have the right to do this. And those people who would criticize such a thing are in the wrong. Okay? So in all acts that we see, when we see people going along a certain trajectory and becoming proud of it, yeah, boasting about body count, okay, boasting about lewd acts, this is all to do with companion devils making it fair seeming to them, making them think that this is something very, very good. Now of course this is something they will regret on the Day of Judgment. On the Day of Judgment things will become very clear. And in the same way that Shaitan, the main guy, will put his hands up and say, it wasn't me, the same way the companion devils will do the same thing. Because they do the same thing Shaitan does. They whisper and they make fair seeming. So, what we can understand is that this assigning of a companion demon is not something random. Allah doesn't just choose people and assign them a demon. Rather, it is something that comes after turning away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such that finding their way back is very difficult. Now, does that mean everyone who is assigned a companion devil is doomed? Well, it's also not as simple as that. The fitrah, or the natural disposition of the human being, is extremely resilient. When we look at the Holy Quran, the verse of the fitrah is 30:30. It says, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. The natural disposition of Allah that He has created human beings upon. There is no change in the creation of Allah, showing you that this natural disposition is something that is very resilient. You may cover it, you may obscure it, but you cannot change it. It is what it is. Okay? ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. That fitrah, that natural disposition of the human being, is the religion of Allah. But most people don't know. Most people are unaware. So when it comes to the explanation of what that natural disposition is, we have in our hadith, فَطَرَهُمْ عَلَى التَّوْحِيدِ, that human beings have been created on tawheed, on a natural, if you like, understanding of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Understanding here that there is something more powerful than them. There is something else in control of the variables and factors. And that being is able to help you. Which is why people in their deepest, darkest circumstances find Allah. Because at that point when they have run out of options, they naturally tend towards that being who is able to significantly change the situation that they're in. So the fitrah, on the one hand, is explained as tawheed. On the other hand, in another hadith, is fatarahum ala al-ma'rifah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created human beings with an innate sense and an innate understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, an innate cognizance of Him. This is hardwired into our very nature. And it is from this recognition that all of religion sprouts. The religion of Islam is a very natural religion. But as the human being is continually distracted, led astray by shaitan, and as we'll see in a minute, is affected by their lower self as well, the power of the fitrah needs to be increasingly stronger as a person goes further and further away from the truth, further and further away from the reminder of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is an opportunity for people to come back, but it might take a lot. And of course, the more you move down one trajectory, the harder it is to make that U-turn. So this is a situation with companion demons that we don't want to get into. People don't want to get into. This is the importance of understanding what the state of play is. Okay? Because it is important for us to recognize that each and every circumstance is a pathway towards this kind of outcome. And this is something very clearly seen in the events of Karbala. Very, very clearly seen. If we think about the trajectory of the people that were there, okay? Many people were there out of force. They were simply forced. They didn't have an option. The tactic of Ibn Ziyad, who was installed as the governor of Kufa, his tactic was one of collective punishment. If one person in your tribe, so you can imagine this in your family and extended family, was caught being a sympathizer of Imam al-Hussein or helping Muslim ibn Aqil, the whole tribe would be punished. Men, women, children, didn't matter. The whole tribe would be punished. Economically, okay, at the very least. So you can imagine, as a sympathizer of Imam al-Hussein, you think to yourself, maybe they won't kill him. Maybe they'll force him to do bay'ah. Here, you're looking at your children, you're looking at your wife, you're looking at your elderly relatives. If you go, they can't handle that retribution. The retribution's not on you, you've gone. Retribution's on everybody else surrounding you. Now, of course, many people in that situation, it's a difficult choice. Very difficult choice to make. You feel selfish. You feel wrong for doing something like that, even if you sympathize with Imam al-Hussein. And that's obviously where the genius of Ibn Ziyad is. He understood human nature. He understood the way human beings are, what the psychology of a person would be. So many people, you hear, for example, a figure of 30,000. About 30,000 troops were there in Karbala. But of course, 30,000 didn't fight. The group of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was about 100 plus. Even if you do 10 to 1, 10 people to 1, that's 1,000. Okay? Fighting, active fighters. The rest of the 30,000, so the 29,000, even if you want to say 5,000, 25,000, were just present. They were present because they were forced to go. Okay? Now, perhaps your psychology might have been, I have to go. I'm a supporter of Imam al-Hussein, or I sympathize with Imam al-Hussein, but I don't want to get myself into a fix. I don't want to get the rest of my family and friends into a fix. Okay? And that was the one step. Okay. Next step. He is going to be killed. He is going to be martyred. And you have the realization. What can you do? You are trapped. In fact, on the day of Ashura, they mentioned that one of the attacks of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was to actually break through a line to go to a group of Shia who were crying. They were witnessing what was happening and they were crying there on the battlefield. They were the sympathizers of Imam al-Hussein, but they had been blocked off from joining him and helping him. Okay? You can see what a tough situation and what a difficult circumstance. But for others, there were other things involved. There was a potential of wealth. There was a potential of position. There was a potential of gaining. And so for them, the incremental decisions that took them to the point where you see on the day of Ashura, it is a battlefield that is unexplainable. And sometimes I look at when the companions say, I will be chopped up 100 times and I will be burnt. I wonder if they understood that this kind of thing was going to happen. Was it that the state of that army had become so detached from all humanity that it was clear that something very terrible was about to happen? Because Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had made very clear to his companions that the army was after him. But those companions would not leave him in that situation. They were completely emotionally invested in the Imam of their time. So we can see the outplay of the role of shaitan in the whole circumstances, the whole society, all of the strong arm tactics, all of the incentives that were there for the army that opposed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So inshallah, in the next lecture, we will talk about the nafs of the human being, and then we will start to talk about what is remedial, how we can try and remedy this situation that all human beings are in, so that we can find ourselves, inshallah, in the camp of Imam al-Hussein alayhi afdalus salati wassalam. Today, inshallah, we are going to look at the history of one of those lucky people on the army of Ibn Ziyad and Umar ibn Sa'ad who managed to find their freedom. They say that freedom is a moment. And for Hur ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, it came not in battle, not in victory, but in surrender. Not to an army, but to truth. His story has been an inspiration for all that find themselves in mistakes. A moment of sincere repentance can change everything. For those who find themselves struggling between paradise and hell in their own lives, and which one of us has not faced that choice? When Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was making his way towards Kufa, it was Hur who stood in his path. A seasoned commander, brave, proud, loyal to the court of Yazid. He came with a battalion and he blocked the Imam's path. Hussein looked at him and said, "May your mother weep for you, O Hur." But Hur, ashamed before the grandson of the Prophet, replied, "If your mother was anyone but Fatima al-Zahra, I would have answered." And from that moment, something began to break him. He marched the Imam towards Karbala, but he did not raise his sword. He stood, watching, waiting, torn between command and conscience. Then came the morning of Ashura. Hur paced back and forth. Al-Muhajir ibn Aus said about Hur, when he confused his trembling and edging towards the camp of Imam al-Hussein as being out of fear, that if I was asked who was the bravest man of Kufa, I would not thought of anyone other than you. Then what is this that I see from you? Hur replied, "By God, I see myself choosing between paradise and hellfire. And by God, I will never choose anything over paradise, even if I am cut to pieces and burned." He mounted his horse. He galloped to the camp of Al-Hussein. He clasped his hands on his head as he rode. He said, "O God, I have turned back to you, so turn to me. I have unsettled the hearts of your close servants and the children of the daughter of the Prophet." According to an account in At-Tabari, when he reached the Imam, he said, "May God allow me to be sacrificed for you, O son of the Messenger of God. I am the one who prevented you from turning back, troubled you on your way, and forced you to stop at this place. By God, other than whom there is no deity, I did not imagine that the people would ever reject what you proposed to them, nor did I think that they would adopt this position regarding you. I had told myself, it does not matter if I obey these people in some of their orders, so that they do not feel that I have turned away from their authority. They will surely accept from Al-Hussein the proposal that he presents to them. By God, if I had known that they would not accept from you, I would not have joined them against you." After explaining his thought process and his error of judgment, he says, "I have come to you repentant before God for what I have done, offering you my life as compensation, so that I may die in your defense. Can you accept this as my repentance?" And Hussein, "O Hussein, what did he do? Did he reject him? Did he blame him? No. He quickly accepted, saying, 'Yes, God will accept your repentance and forgive you.' No blame, no dwelling on the past, no retribution, a clean break. If Hur represents the strength to take accountability and change your ways, Imam al-Hussein shows us how to mercifully accept the sincere repentance of others. He went to the battlefield not as a commander but as a servant. He fought like a lion, and when he fell, wounded, dying, he sent his salam to Imam al-Hussein. This is one of the characteristic phenomena of Karbala, that when anyone from the camp of the Imam fell, they sent their salam on Aba Abdullah. He was brought to the Imam by the other companions while he was barely alive. The Imam wiped the dust from his face and said, "You are free as your mother named you, free in this world and free in the hereafter." O people, learn from Hur. He began as an oppressor and he ended as a martyr. He began under Yazid and he ended under the feet of Sayyid al-Shuhada. This is the mercy of Karbala, that even on the day of battle, even in the last moments, truth remains open to those who seek it. So if you ever feel distant, if you ever feel unworthy, remember Hur. The chains of sin can be broken, the walls of pride can fall, and there, at the feet of the Imam, even the lost can be found. O Hur, we were not there when you turned your reins from the enemy to the caravan of Al-Hussein, but every year we make that same turn. We choose the path you choose, we reject the court, we run towards the camp, and we say, "O Hussein, we too were lost. Let us kneel as Hur did, let us die as Hur did, and let us be free." Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin, wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all of our brothers and sisters across the world, in every situation across the globe, and especially in Gaza. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help all of the distressed, all of the ill, all of the people that are going through any trouble and hardship. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best of this world and the best of the hereafter, and to save us from the fire of hell. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi at-tahirin.
يا رب الحسين عشق صدر الحسين عشق صدر الحسين عشق صدر الزينب ظهور منتقم الحسين يا رب الزينب عشق صدر الزينب. On the morning of Ashura, the mothers were getting ready their sons. One mother prepared Qasim, saying, "I am a widow, Qasim. I came here because of a promise I made to your father." Another mother was preparing Ali Akbar. She kept hugging him and telling him how she couldn't live without him. But there was a mother in Karbala who sat with her two sons next to her, and with her hands she kept brushing the dust out of their hair. She kept saying the same lines over and over again. My two lions, you are the grandsons of the Lion of Allah and Ja'far and Tayyar. Tomorrow when you go to battle, I ask only two things of you. If you can try and kill Umar ibn Sa'ad, then do so. And the second is, if whilst you're fighting you get to the Furat, don't drink the water. Your uncle Hussein and his Sakina are still thirsty. The battlefield was filled with the roar of war. The neighing of enemy horses echoed like thunder. The air was thick with the smoke of burning arrows. The fluttering banners of the Ahl al-Bayt waved softly as if bidding farewell to the fallen. In the midst of this chaos, Lady Zainab, the daughter of Ali, and Lady Fatima sought permission for her two sons to go forward and fight. Traditions tell of the heartbreak in Zainab's heart as she approached Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, saying, "Oh my brother, I ask you to accept these two sons of mine in the path of Allah, for I have come here with nothing but them." Imam Hussein hesitated. His voice was heavy with a brotherly pain and deep concern. Had they been merely servants, they would be a gift. But Zainab, these are your sons. At last the Imam closed his eyes and gave his consent quietly. He said, "Go ahead, they are from me." The two young boys readied themselves for the battlefield. They wrapped the bands of martyrdom around their foreheads and stepped onto the sands of Karbala with grace and resolve. Imam Hussein picked up one and helped him onto the horse, and Abbas helped the other. The armor they wore was too big for them, and the swords they swung were made for grown men. On was about 13 and Muhammad about 11. Their faces shone with light as they appeared on the battlefield. The enemy was in confusion. Who are these youths whose faces shine like two moons in front of us? The reply came, "These are the sons of Zainab, the lioness of Banu Hashim." On raised his sword, his sleeves too big for his wrists, his hands clenching onto the sword with a formidable strength, a strength that was unnatural for his age, and he roared, "I am on on, and this is my brother Muhammad. O enemies of Allah, O enemies of my uncle, pour all your hatred upon us. They fought bravely like the cubs of Ali. Despite being young, they attacked the precision. They attacked with precision, breaking enemy lines and defending the camp of Hussein. On looked at his brother, and Muhammad looked back at On. They planned to take a flank of the army each. Muhammad went left and On went right, and then they decided to attack the heart of the enemy camp. Their target was to kill Umar ibn Sa'd. When Umar ibn Sa'd saw how close they had gotten, he gave an order for the boys to be attacked by the full force of his army. The enemy surrounded them from all sides. A spear pierced Muhammad in his shoulder, while another struck On in his forehead. They fell to the ground, their swords slipping from their hands, and their voices echoed into the air. On cried out, Ya Ammar, oh my uncle. Muhammad's voice was a little whispered, and he said, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Lady Zainab heard their final calls. Her heart was torn, yet she didn't rush on to the battlefield. She stood calmly in her tent, raised her hands and said, Oh my sons, I am proud of you. You are ascending to your Lord on the path of truth. Her grief did not shake. She remained still, offering her silent strength as an offering to Allah. Some traditions mention that when the bodies of her sons were brought back, Zainab held a small clay dish in her hands and said solemnly, I have prepared your graves. Today I bid you farewell in the best of state. Her eyes did not weep outwardly, instead they burned with the light of sacrifice. Her silence was not weakness, it was strength carved in the mold of Zahra's patience. She stood firm as if she were welcoming messengers from heaven. A sacred hush fell over Zainab's tent. Sayyida Zainab went from Karbala to Sham. Then on Arba'in, she went from Sham to Karbala. She went to every grave and cried other than her sons. She came back to Medina. She went to her grandfather Rasulullah's grave and read the masa'ib of everyone other than her sons. She went to her mother's grave and didn't say a word about her sons. times. She went to her brother's house and didn't say a word about her sons. But at the end, a mother's heart is such. As soon as she walked into her house and walked into the courtyard, she saw two little prayer mats laid out on the floor. She pulled her burqa over her face. She threw herself onto one of the mats and held the other mat against her chest and began screaming the names on and Muhammad, oh my all, and Muhammad, oh my all, and Muhammad, Ya Hussein.
Thank you. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Rabb koi maasuma, Ya Rabb koi maasuma, zinda mein na tanha ho, Ya Rabb koi maasuma, Ya Rabb koi maasuma, zinda mein na tanha ho, Ya Rabb koi maasuma, Ya Rabb koi maasuma, zinda mein na tanha ho, Ya Rabb koi تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ ہو پابند نہ ہو آئے ہے پابند نہ ہوا ہے رونے پہ نہ پہرا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ ہو تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر زندہ در زندہ ہے زندہ در زندہ اس کے لیے قضا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصوما زندہ ہو یا رب کوئی معصوم زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سے سکنے کی زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سے سکنے کی جیسے کہ سکینہ کو ہے جیسے کہ سکینہ کو ہر زندان رو رہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی ٹکرائے نہ وہ کیوں کر زندہ کی دیواروں سے ٹکرائے نہ وہ کیوں کر زندہ کی دیواروں سے بھائی سے اور پھوپھی سے ہائے بھائی سے اور پھوپھی سے کس کو جدا کیا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی زندان میں نجفی یاد آئی سکینہ کی زندان میں نجفی یاد آئی سکینہ کی دل رو رو کہہ رہا ہے ہائے دل رو رو کہہ رہا ہے اب نہ اجالا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر تھی جس کو نیند آتی شبیر کے سینے پر زندہ در زندہ ہے زندہ در زندہ اس کے لیے قضا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سے سکنے کی زندانوں سے آتی تھی آواز سے سکنے کی جیسے کہ سکینہ کو ہے جیسے کہ سکینہ کو ہر زندان رو رہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا رب کوئی معصومہ زندہ میں نہ تنہا ہو یا حسین
Already?
Just it's easier unless you're told.
I like it.
Yeah.
إن الله وملائكته